In a misty forest scattered with abandoned graves, Officer Dylan Shaw lies unconscious on the damp, fallen leaves, blood gently pooling beneath his head in the persistent drizzle. Maximus, his loyal German Shepherd canine partner, stands protectively beside him, eyes piercing through the darkness. Nearby, veterinarian Holly Bennett desperately searches for her young son, Charlie, who vanished during a school outing. Fate draws Maximus and Holly together, and united, they brave fierce wild dogs and confront a lurking criminal hidden in shadows. Ultimately, courage and loyalty overcome darkness and danger, allowing hope and happiness to shine through the misty gloom. The drizzle had begun long before dawn, gently blanketing the sleepy town of Greystone, nestled on the edge of the dense Oregon woodlands. The streets shimmered under the dim glow of aging street lamps, water pooling in potholes that the city council had promised to fix months ago. It was mid-autumn, and the residents of Greystone knew better than to hope for sunshine this late in October. Rain was a constant companion, blending daylight into twilight, and twilight into an endless night. For Officer Dylan Shaw, tonight was already darker than usual. Dylan Shaw was a promising young police officer, 28 years old, with an athletic build shaped by years of rigorous physical training. His dark brown hair was usually neatly combed, but tonight strands fell chaotically onto his forehead, soaked by relentless rain. Dylan's strong jawline and expressive blue eyes had always given him a look of earnest determination, respected by his peers and admired by many in town. Friendly and approachable, Dylan was known for his compassion and fairness, qualities that made him beloved in the tight-knit community of Greystone. Yet, Dylan carried a hidden burden. 2 years earlier, he had lost his older brother, Jason, in the line of duty. Jason's tragic death cast a long shadow over Dylan's soul, fueling both his sense of justice and an occasional reckless determination. Colleagues had gently advised him to slow down, to take fewer risks, but Dylan's resolve to protect his community was unshakable. Tonight's operation began with a tip-off. A dangerous fugitive named Mason Reed, who had escaped from a penitentiary, was hiding in the dense woods beyond Greystone Cemetery. Dylan volunteered immediately, disregarding warnings from Captain Marcus Rhodes, a veteran officer nearing retirement, with silver-streaked hair and a calm but authoritative demeanor. Marcus worried deeply about Dylan's impulsiveness, seeing glimpses of Jason's tragic fate looming over his younger brother. Now, deep within the forest, the ancient Greystone Cemetery lay silent, the gravestones worn smooth by centuries of rain and neglect. Dense fog crept slowly between the gravestones, masking their shapes into spectral forms. Dylan moved cautiously, his flashlight illuminating small patches of earth ahead. Beside him trotted his trusted canine partner, Maximus, a magnificent German shepherd, nearly 5 years old, his muscular body tense and alert beneath his thick coat, now heavy with rain. Maximus was large, standing almost 3 feet tall at the shoulder, his fur a blend of deep black and warm tan, eyes sharply intelligent, amber brown in color. Loyal, courageous, and fiercely protective, Maximus had saved Dylan's life before, intercepting an attacker during a traffic stop last year. Tonight, Maximus sensed danger in every shadow, ears perked forward, nose twitching subtly with each inhaled scent. Dylan trusted Maximus's instincts implicitly. As they moved deeper into the mist-covered woods, Dylan's radio crackled faintly. "Shaw, report your position," Marcus's voice said, sounding distorted through static interference. "We're near the old cemetery, heading north." "No sign of Reed yet," Dylan responded calmly, though his heart thumped nervously. He glanced down at Maximus. "Easy, buddy. Stay close." Suddenly, Maximus stopped mid-step, freezing rigidly, eyes locked ahead into darkness. Dylan halted immediately, his breath shallow. The rain had intensified, droplets drumming lightly on leaves overhead. In the silence that followed, Dylan sensed someone lurking beyond sight. Before Dylan could react, a sharp movement flashed at the edge of his vision, followed immediately by searing pain exploding at the back of his skull. Darkness flooded Dylan's mind as his body crumpled lifelessly onto the wet leaves. Minutes later, Dylan lay motionless, unconscious, blood slowly seeping from a deep wound at the back of his head, mixing with rainwater and forming a faint crimson puddle beneath him. Maximus stood protectively over his fallen partner, fur soaked and muddy, eyes glaring fiercely into the shadows. Every muscle in his powerful body was coiled tightly, ready to spring at the slightest provocation. The drizzle continued softly, indifferent to the grim tableau beneath. Around them, the forest seemed alive with hidden threats. Silhouettes shifted between the trees, shadowy figures drawn by the scent of vulnerability. The scent of blood had also attracted the attention of a pack of wild dogs, abandoned long ago by negligent owners and forced to survive in the cruel wilderness. They were gaunt, feral animals, their ribs protruding beneath thin, ragged coats, their eyes reflecting hunger and desperation. Maximus growled deeply, a warning rumble that carried clearly through the damp air. His stance conveyed an unspoken message: approach at your own peril. One shadow hesitated at the edge of the clearing, its movements less animalistic, distinctly human. Mason Reed, the fugitive Dylan had been hunting, peered cautiously at the fallen officer and his protective companion. Reed was a tall, wiry man with dark, stringy hair plastered to his forehead by rain. His features were sharp, predatory, his dark eyes darting nervously between Dylan's unmoving form and Maximus's hostile gaze. Reed had not intended such direct confrontation, and now fear clawed at him. Silently, Reed retreated into the deeper shadows, leaving the wounded officer and the faithful dog behind. Back in a small town, unaware of Dylan's desperate situation, veterinarian Holly Bennett finished closing her modest clinic, her heart heavy with worry. Holly, at 34 years old, was slender and graceful, standing just over 5'6". Soft auburn curls framed a compassionate face often touched by gentle laughter, though tonight it was tense with anxiety. Her vivid green eyes, usually bright with warmth, were clouded with concern. Her 8-year-old son, Charlie, cheerful and adventurous with sandy blonde hair and wide, innocent eyes, had joined a school camping trip earlier that day and hadn't returned as scheduled. Holly's attempts to reach Charlie's teacher had been unsuccessful, and unease had quickly blossomed into genuine fear. Holly's personal strength stemmed partly from enduring the sudden loss of her husband 3 years prior, leaving her to raise Charlie alone. She had become fiercely protective of her son, deeply sensitive to any hint of danger. Now, her maternal instincts screamed louder with each unanswered call. Finally, overwhelmed by worry, Holly dialed the Greystone Police Department, her voice shaking as she described Charlie's disappearance. Meanwhile, in the misty forest, Maximus stood steadfast, the rain dripping steadily from his fur. He nudged Dylan's cheek gently, whimpering softly when his partner didn't respond. Sensing Dylan's life slipping slowly away, Maximus made a decision born of instinct and desperation. With one last glance at Dylan's motionless body, Maximus bounded swiftly into the night, determined to find help in the maze of rain and darkness. Far away, the wild dogs crept cautiously forward, their eyes gleaming hungrily as they closed in on Dylan's helpless form. Maximus sprinted faster, guided by scent, driven by love and duty. He knew he was Dylan's only chance. Maximus paused for only an instant, his muscular frame trembling slightly beneath the relentless drizzle, amber eyes locking onto Dylan's motionless form one final time. His powerful instincts told him clearly his master did not have much longer. Gathering every ounce of strength and courage, the German shepherd bounded through the murky woods, mud splattering onto his rain-soaked fur as he navigated swiftly between fallen branches and dense undergrowth. His senses sharpened fiercely, each stride driven by loyalty and the urgent necessity of survival. The fading scent of Dylan's blood clung stubbornly to his nostrils, fueling his resolve as he raced desperately toward the distant lights of Greystone. In town, the soft glow of streetlights illuminated the tidy brick building of the Greystone Veterinary Clinic. Holly Bennett stood just outside the glass doors, her slender frame shivering slightly in the cool October air. At 34, Holly possessed an elegance that often drew admiration, her shoulder-length auburn curls lightly dampened by mist, framing a gentle yet worried face marked by faint freckles. Beneath the calm professionalism she maintained daily, Holly's vivid green eyes revealed the depth of her current anguish. Charlie, her 8-year-old son with playful hazel eyes and tousled sandy blonde hair, had vanished after an afternoon field trip to the woods with Greystone Elementary School. Normally bright and cheerful, Holly now felt suffocating dread grip her tightly. Every passing moment amplified her anxiety. Memories of her late husband, Richard, who had tragically died in a car accident 3 years prior, intensified her fear of loss. She had fought bravely to rebuild their lives, but tonight felt like the cruel return of a nightmare. Beside Holly stood Deputy Liam Grant, a seasoned law enforcement officer in his mid-40s, stocky with broad shoulders, thinning dark hair combed meticulously beneath his wide-brimmed sheriff's hat. Liam was known for his unwavering dependability, though often gruff, his stoic presence reassuring the community during crises. Tonight, his normally calm demeanor was unsettled. His gray eyes narrowed as he spoke quietly into his handheld radio, coordinating the hastily assembled search team. "We'll find him, Holly," Liam assured her softly, noticing her tense grip on her phone. "Charlie's a smart boy. He'll know to stay put." Holly nodded faintly, trying desperately to hold on to that thought, when a sudden movement from the darkness startled everyone gathered. Through the thin rain emerged a large, soaked German shepherd, barking urgently, his eyes blazing fiercely in the pale lamplight. "Whoa, it's Dylan's dog, Maximus!" Liam exclaimed, recognizing the distinctive markings and powerful build of Dylan Shaw's K9 partner. Maximus approached Holly directly, nudging her hand firmly with his snout, eyes filled with anxious desperation. The intensity of his gaze clearly conveyed urgency, tugging at her sleeve with determined insistence. "Something's wrong with Dylan," Holly said instinctively, panic rising sharply within her. She knew Dylan Shaw well enough from occasional town meetings and veterinary checks on Maximus to understand the dog's frantic signals. Dylan was chasing that fugitive out near Greystone Cemetery tonight. Liam confirmed urgently, realization dawning. Maximus wouldn't leave him unless... He paused, alarm sharpening his voice. "We need to get out there immediately." "Charlie's lost somewhere out there, too," Holly added, her voice breaking slightly. The fear in her eyes was unmistakable. Liam nodded gravely, quickly calling the search teams together, dividing them clearly into 2 units, one for Dylan, the other for Charlie. Maximus stood poised, body quivering impatiently, ready to lead Holly and Liam's team to his fallen handler. Meanwhile, hidden deeper in the dense forest, young Charlie Bennett huddled fearfully beneath the sagging roof of a dilapidated shack, his blue denim jacket drenched and muddied, eyes wide with terror. His class had dispersed earlier after their teacher, Mrs. Eleanor Simmons, a kindly woman in her late 50s with neatly pinned silver hair, had instructed everyone to pack quickly as darkness approached. Charlie, easily distracted by nature's wonders, had lagged behind to observe a rare red fox darting between trees. Before he realized it, the fog thickened, the voices of classmates faded, leaving him utterly alone. Charlie now trembled as strange noises echoed from the trees, shadows playing ominous tricks on his young mind. He hugged his knees tighter, thoughts drifting helplessly toward his mother, whom he imagined desperately waiting for him. A rustling noise abruptly pierced the silence, snapping Charlie's attention outward. Emerging slowly from the mist appeared a scruffy, gaunt-looking stray dog, one of the feral pack that roamed this forest. The animal approached cautiously, its ragged fur dripping wet, eyes gleaming hungrily in the darkness. Charlie shrank back instinctively, tears welling up in his eyes, heart pounding furiously. Back near Greystone Cemetery, Holly, Liam, and their small team struggled to keep pace with Maximus's urgent strides, the dog's confident movements expertly navigating the slippery terrain. The rain intensified slightly, soaking through their jackets, mingling with sweat and tension. Holly could hardly breathe as they neared the area where Dylan lay, a surge of fear gripping her at the sight that greeted them. "Over here," Liam shouted, rushing forward as he spotted Dylan's crumpled body lying eerily still on the soaked ground, blood darkening beneath him. Holly knelt immediately beside Dylan, fingers trembling as she assessed his condition. Her professional instincts took over, steadying her panic. Dylan's pulse was faint but present, his breathing shallow and uneven. "He's alive, but we must hurry," Holly shouted urgently to Liam. "He needs medical attention now." Liam quickly radioed for emergency medical assistance, relaying Dylan's condition and coordinates clearly. Maximus paced nervously nearby, whining softly, his gaze darting between Dylan's prone form and Holly, visibly distressed yet vigilant. "Maximus," Holly whispered reassuringly, gently stroking the dog's sodden fur, attempting to calm his anxiety. "You did well, brave boy." Maximus settled slightly, his amber eyes softening briefly at her voice, yet still guarded and alert. As medical personnel approached quickly through the trees, carefully placing Dylan onto a stretcher, Holly turned toward Liam, her voice strained with controlled fear. "We have to find Charlie immediately." Liam nodded solemnly. "I'll lead a team now. The rest will escort Dylan back." "Stay with them, Holly." "No," she replied firmly, determination sparking strongly in her eyes. "Charlie's out there alone. I'm going with you." Understanding the futility of arguing with a mother's fierce determination, Liam agreed swiftly, organizing his team for immediate departure deeper into the woods. Holly followed closely, heartbeat accelerating sharply as every step took them further into the unknown darkness. Maximus, torn momentarily between his loyalty to Dylan and the need to protect Holly, paused only briefly before decisively joining Holly's side, sensing her vulnerability and purpose. Back in the shack, Charlie stared helplessly as the wild dog crept nearer, saliva dripping hungrily from its bared teeth. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed nearby, causing the stray to retreat swiftly into the shadows. Charlie's heart leaped desperately. Someone had found him, but who? Relief and uncertainty battled within his young heart as footsteps approached, hoping desperately it was rescue, yet fearing the unfamiliar darkness around him even more. He held his breath, silently praying, waiting desperately for familiar faces to appear through the mist. The heavy mist clung persistently to Holly Bennett's jacket as she pushed forward into the dense, shadow-laden forest. Holly's feet slipped slightly on the wet foliage, her auburn curls now plastered damply to her temples. Beside her strode Deputy Liam Grant, his broad frame slightly hunched as he scanned the dark, treacherous path ahead with his flashlight. Behind them, a small group of rescuers, local volunteers from Greystone, moved carefully but steadily, their expressions grave yet determined. It was Maximus who moved most urgently, his muscular frame tense with purpose, paws barely seeming to touch the ground, eyes blazing intently. Suddenly, he stopped, ears swiveling sharply toward another direction. He barked urgently, then turned and tugged gently at Holly's jacket sleeve, clearly attempting to pull her away from the group's planned route. "Wait, Maximus," Liam called out firmly, confusion lining his tired features. "We already know the area Charlie might be. The old campgrounds are this way." Maximus ignored him, his bark growing more insistent as he stared fiercely into Holly's eyes. Holly hesitated, feeling something deep in the dog's desperate gaze tug at her instincts. "He wants me to follow him," Holly said, her voice trembling slightly with an intuition she couldn't ignore. "Liam, I think Maximus knows where Charlie is." Liam sighed deeply, running a weary hand across his forehead, clearly troubled. "Holly, it's risky. We should stay with the search area we've mapped." "I understand," Holly replied firmly, determination strengthening her tone as she gently touched Liam's arm. But please, I trust him. Seeing her unwavering resolution, Liam finally nodded reluctantly, instructing the rescue team to continue their initial search while he himself stayed behind to accompany Holly and Maximus. As the main group moved on, Maximus bounded forward eagerly, glancing repeatedly back at Holly to ensure she was close behind. Meanwhile, deep in the abandoned shack, Charlie Bennett shivered violently, pulling his knees tightly to his chest. The flimsy wooden walls barely blocked out the chilling October air. Shadows danced ominously across the mold-covered floorboards, and a low, menacing growl sounded just outside the fragile door. Charlie's hazel eyes widened in fear, breath hitching in panic as scratching noises intensified. "Mommy," Charlie whispered weakly, tears now streaking down his pale cheeks. Suddenly, a sharp voice barked from outside, startling him. "Hey, get out of here!" The voice shouted fiercely, followed immediately by the frantic scuttling of paws retreating into darkness. Moments later, the door creaked open cautiously, revealing an older man silhouetted in the doorway. Charlie shrank back instinctively, unsure whether to trust this stranger. The man stepped slowly into the dim glow, filtering through gaps in the wooden planks. He appeared to be in his late 60s, slender and somewhat frail, with thinning silver hair and a neatly trimmed white beard that contrasted sharply with his rough, well-worn clothing, a heavy coat over a faded flannel shirt and muddy jeans. Though weathered by age and hardship, the man's dark eyes held surprising warmth and compassion. "Easy there, kid," he said gently, raising his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name's Elijah Brooks. I live out near the woods. Saw you were lost." Charlie studied the stranger closely, still wary but desperate for reassurance. Elijah moved with a cautious tenderness, taking off his coat and draping it around Charlie's trembling shoulders. "It's all right now," Elijah murmured softly, sitting carefully beside him. "I'll stay right here with you until help arrives." Charlie slowly began to relax, sensing sincerity in Elijah's calm demeanor. "Are they coming for me?" Charlie asked in a shaky voice, hope flickering faintly in his gaze. "Yes, they are," Elijah replied confidently, gently placing a comforting hand on Charlie's shoulder. "Your mom's out there right now, searching hard for you. She's probably worried sick." Hearing mention of his mother, Charlie finally felt warmth spread through him, leaning slightly into Elijah's comforting presence. "Thank you," he whispered softly, closing his eyes momentarily. Meanwhile, Maximus's pace quickened, leading Holly and Liam rapidly through increasingly dense underbrush. Holly's heartbeat pounded loudly in her ears, every nerve frayed with anxiety. The rain had subsided to a drizzle, but the oppressive fog still curled thickly around trees, obscuring visibility. "Are you certain about this?" Liam asked softly, though his tone lacked any judgment, merely genuine concern. Holly nodded resolutely, brushing damp strands of hair from her face. "Absolutely." Her voice was steadier now, driven by conviction and hope. Suddenly, Maximus halted abruptly, his muscular body tensed rigidly, ears pointed forward. His fierce growl reverberated through the stillness. A pair of wild dogs emerged slowly from the mist, gaunt forms looming menacingly ahead. Their eyes glowed hungrily, snarls curling their thin lips back to reveal sharp, yellow teeth. "Stay behind me," Liam commanded sharply, stepping protectively before Holly, gripping his flashlight tightly like a club. But Maximus sprang forward first, launching himself aggressively toward the threatening animals, jaws snapping sharply, hackles raised. A fierce battle erupted momentarily, snarls and yelps echoing loudly. One wild dog whimpered sharply, retreating hastily into shadows, while the other backed away slowly, intimidated by Maximus's relentless strength. Maximus returned promptly, panting heavily but clearly unharmed, eyes still vigilant. Liam breathed a sigh of relief, admiration clear in his voice as he praised the brave dog. "Good boy, Maximus." Suddenly, the faint outline of a shack materialized through swirling mist ahead. Holly's heart leaped sharply. "Charlie!" she called desperately, sprinting forward, Liam and Maximus close behind. Inside the shack, Elijah heard Holly's voice clearly, rising quickly to open the door fully, allowing Holly and Liam to burst inside. "Charlie!" Holly gasped tearfully, rushing immediately to gather her son tightly into her arms, relief washing over her in powerful waves. "Mommy!" Charlie sobbed joyously, clutching her fiercely, the terror finally fading from his young eyes. Elijah stepped back discreetly, a gentle smile softening his weathered face as he observed their emotional reunion. Liam approached him respectfully, extending his hand warmly. "We're truly grateful, sir. I'm Deputy Liam Grant." Elijah shook Liam's hand warmly, nodding graciously. "Elijah Brooks. Glad I found him before anything worse happened." Maximus approached slowly, sniffing curiously at Elijah before nuzzling Charlie affectionately, clearly satisfied that his young friend was safe. Charlie laughed softly, reaching eagerly to stroke Maximus's damp fur. "Thank you, Maximus," Charlie whispered tenderly, earning a gentle lick from the faithful dog in return. Holly turned gratefully toward Elijah, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. You saved my son." Elijah waved off her gratitude modestly. "I'm just glad the boy's all right. These woods aren't safe at night, especially lately." Holly glanced worriedly at Liam, who nodded thoughtfully. "We need to get back immediately. Dylan's still in critical condition, and these wild animals are dangerous." Holly took Charlie's hand tightly, turning toward the shack's entrance. Maximus moved swiftly to her side, positioning himself protectively once more, senses heightened and alert. As they stepped carefully back into the fog-shrouded forest, Holly cast a final grateful glance back at Elijah, who simply smiled reassuringly from the doorway, his presence a comforting guardian in the shadows. Guided safely by Maximus, they began the cautious journey back through the darkened woods, hearts now lighter despite lingering fears. The cold mist swirled gently around them, whispering quietly of dangers narrowly avoided, yet also promising hope amid darkness. Maximus pressed forward resolutely, guiding Holly Bennett and Deputy Liam Grant through the twisting, shadowed forest paths. Behind them, young Charlie clung desperately to his mother's hand, his small frame still trembling beneath his damp jacket. Holly glanced down periodically, offering reassuring squeezes to ease her son's lingering fear. Charlie, normally talkative and energetic, now remained unusually quiet, eyes wide as they carefully navigated the uneven terrain. Deputy Liam walked close behind, flashlight sweeping back and forth, a steady sentinel to the reunited family. His posture remained cautious yet composed, trained eyes scrutinizing every shadow. Suddenly, Maximus halted sharply, ears pricked forward, nose sniffing urgently at the air. His muscular form became rigid, amber eyes piercing intently into the fog-laden darkness ahead. A low, worried whine escaped him, and Holly immediately felt her heart lurch. "What is it, Maximus?" Holly asked gently, kneeling beside the tense dog, stroking his still damp fur soothingly. Maximus glanced at her briefly before bolting forward again with renewed urgency. Holly rose swiftly, intuition and fear intertwining tightly within her. "Come quickly," she urged Liam, voice strained yet decisive. They followed Maximus rapidly, Charlie holding tightly to Holly's hand, the forest thinning slightly as they approached the clearing where Dylan Shaw had fallen earlier. At the sight before them, Holly's breath caught sharply. Dylan still lay motionless on the wet ground, his dark brown hair matted and soaked by rain and blood. Holly rushed immediately to his side, releasing Charlie momentarily into Liam's protective hold. Kneeling beside Dylan, Holly swiftly assessed his condition, her veterinary instincts allowing her to manage her fear efficiently. She gently turned Dylan's face upward, noting his pale, clammy skin and shallow breathing. His pulse was weak, fluttering faintly beneath her fingertips. "Holly, how bad is it?" Liam asked tensely from behind her, flashlight now illuminating the injured officer clearly. Maximus paced anxiously, eyes locked onto Dylan's unmoving form, whimpering softly. "Critical," Holly murmured grimly, quickly removing her scarf and pressing it firmly against Dylan's head wound. She spoke to Dylan softly but urgently, desperate to reach him. "Dylan, can you hear me? Please wake up." A faint groan escaped Dylan's lips, his eyelids flickering slightly before finally fluttering open, revealing disoriented blue eyes. He blinked rapidly, attempting to focus on Holly's concerned face above him. Holly," he managed weakly, confusion evident in his faint voice. "Yes, Dylan, it's me," Holly replied gently, relief briefly lightening her expression. "You've been badly injured. Help is on the way, just hold on." She glanced urgently at Liam. "Please call emergency again. Let them know it's urgent." Liam nodded swiftly, stepping aside to communicate the critical update clearly into his radio, providing precise details for the rescue team. Maximus stepped closer to Dylan, nudging his master's shoulder gently, a worried whine escaping him once more. Dylan's eyes softened immediately, recognition clear even through his pain and confusion. His trembling hand weakly reached upward, resting briefly atop Maximus's head, fingers gently ruffling damp fur. "Good boy," Dylan whispered faintly, gratitude and love unmistakably clear in his strained tone. Maximus seemed comforted momentarily, but continued to pace restlessly, gaze flickering anxiously back toward the darkened woods surrounding them. Sensing his distress, Holly reached out once more, gently soothing Maximus with reassuring strokes. "You saved him, Maximus. You've done wonderfully," she murmured softly. Dylan, however, grew suddenly more alert, weakly gripping Holly's wrist urgently. "Charlie," he whispered, eyes widening anxiously. "I saw a boy ran into a shack." Relief flooded Holly's features instantly, her smile tender and comforting. "Charlie's safe," she reassured Dylan swiftly, gesturing gently toward Liam and her son, who now watched anxiously from nearby. "He's here, Dylan. We found him." Dylan's eyes visibly relaxed, relief easing some of the tension within his weakened body. "Thank goodness," he murmured softly, exhaustion reclaiming him quickly. His eyes closed slowly, breaths becoming shallow again. Suddenly, from behind them, footsteps rapidly approached, the beams of flashlights illuminating the clearing clearly. The rescue team had arrived swiftly, medical personnel rushing immediately to Dylan's side with practiced efficiency. Holly moved aside to allow them room, her arms instantly reaching out to embrace Charlie protectively once more. Maximus reluctantly stepped back, his vigilant eyes locked unwaveringly upon the emergency workers stabilizing Dylan. Liam stood close by, coordinating calmly with the rescue team, providing concise information to ensure Dylan's quick evacuation. Among the newly arrived rescuers stood Officer Kayla Monroe, a young officer in her late 20s, slender yet athletically built, with short blonde hair beneath her rain-covered police cap and clear, determined gray eyes. Kayla was relatively new to Greystone, but highly respected already for her thorough professionalism and quiet confidence. She approached Liam swiftly, offering him a concise nod of acknowledgement. "Deputy, we have a medical helicopter en route for Officer Shaw. ETA is 5 minutes." Liam nodded gratefully, visibly relieved. "Thank you, Officer Monroe. Let's prepare a clear landing site immediately." Kayla turned promptly, efficiently instructing her team, her voice calm, yet authoritative, directing clear, organized movements that swiftly secured the area for Dylan's impending evacuation. Holly held Charlie close, whispering reassuringly into his ear, eyes following each careful movement of the rescue workers. Maximus sat closely beside them, body still alert, yet comforted now by Holly's gentle presence. Charlie's small hand absently stroked Maximus's fur rhythmically, the simple motion easing lingering fear for both child and dog alike. As the distant rhythmic whir of helicopter blades finally reached their ears, Holly exhaled slowly, relief flooding her fully. The emergency helicopter descended carefully through the dense fog, landing safely in the clearing. Dylan was loaded swiftly aboard, medical personnel working seamlessly together to stabilize him securely for transport. Liam approached Holly gently as the helicopter's engine roared louder, eyes filled with quiet reassurance. "He'll be in good hands, Holly," Liam assured her calmly. "Now, let's get Charlie home safe, too." Holly nodded gratefully, squeezing Liam's hand briefly in quiet appreciation. Turning, she gently guided Charlie toward the waiting rescue vehicles at the forest's edge. Maximus followed closely, his presence a steadfast comfort as they moved away from the shadowed woods towards safety and home. From a distance, hidden within dense underbrush, a pair of calculating dark eyes watched silently as the group retreated, cold anger flickering sharply. Mason Reed, still concealed in darkness, tightened his grip around a small hunting knife, his jaw clenched tightly with frustrated rage. Reed's wiry frame trembled slightly with suppressed fury, knowing tonight's failure could cost him dearly. He turned silently, slipping deeper into shadow, promising himself silently that next time he would not fail. Meanwhile, Holly, Charlie, Liam, and Maximus emerged safely from the forest into the comforting lights awaiting them, the night's dangers finally behind them. Holly's heart felt lighter, gratitude for those who had risked so much tonight overwhelming her completely. She looked down tenderly at Charlie's exhausted yet peaceful face, softly whispering into the quiet night, "We're safe now." The night grew colder as Holly Bennett held Charlie closely, her heartbeat finally slowing after their reunion. Beside them, Deputy Liam Grant moved cautiously, scanning their surroundings for further danger. The helicopter carrying Dylan had already disappeared into the darkened sky, leaving a tense quietness in its wake. Only Maximus remained alert, pacing anxiously at the edge of the clearing, his muscles rippling beneath damp fur, eyes locked intently on the fog-shrouded tree line. Suddenly, Maximus halted sharply, ears standing rigidly upright. A low, threatening growl rumbled deep in his chest, eyes narrowed towards something unseen. Holly tensed instinctively, glancing nervously at Liam. "What is it now?" Liam murmured, flashlight immediately following Maximus's gaze. Holly tightened her grip on Charlie, heart thumping again. From within the mist came a faint, rustling movement, soft footsteps crunching cautiously on damp leaves. Maximus advanced slightly, fur bristling aggressively. Without warning, a shadowy figure emerged from the trees, pausing briefly at the edge of visibility. Liam trained his flashlight directly upon the intruder, illuminating the wiry frame and angular face of Mason Reed. Reed stood motionless, eyes glittering coldly beneath his stringy, rain-drenched hair. He was lean and gaunt, with sharp cheekbones and thin lips twisted into a contemptuous sneer. His hand gripped a hunting knife tightly, reflecting the flashlight's glare. The fugitive's entire demeanor radiated hostility, his dark gaze darting quickly between Liam, Holly, and Charlie. "Stay back," Liam commanded sharply, his voice steady despite underlying tension. Reed took another step forward defiantly, smirking arrogantly. "You're not taking me back," Reed snarled, his voice ragged from exhaustion. "Not without someone paying the price." Maximus surged forward protectively, placing himself boldly between Reed and Holly's family. Reed hesitated momentarily, wary eyes locked on the formidable German shepherd, recognizing instantly that the dog posed a serious threat. Meanwhile, unnoticed, a different threat emerged silently from surrounding shadows. A pack of feral dogs had crept nearer, drawn by the commotion and scent of fear. They were thin, dirty animals, ribs protruding beneath matted coats, eyes glowing hungrily in the dim light. With a coordinated suddenness, they lunged forward, snarling viciously toward Holly and Charlie. Instantly, Maximus pivoted, engaging the wild pack fiercely, his jaws snapping powerfully, driving the dogs back in confusion. Liam stepped protectively beside Holly, wielding his flashlight as a makeshift weapon to keep attackers at bay. The confrontation quickly escalated into a desperate battle. Maximus fought with disciplined aggression, fangs gleaming sharply, his muscular body moving swiftly and confidently despite fatigue. Taking advantage of the chaos, Mason Reed lunged suddenly toward Holly and Charlie, brandishing his knife threateningly. Holly reacted instinctively, pulling Charlie protectively behind her and raising her hands defensively, heart hammering desperately. "Let's go," Holly pleaded, voice firm despite trembling fear. Reed laughed bitterly, eyes filled with rage and desperation. "You're my ticket out of here," he growled dangerously, gripping Holly's arm roughly. Charlie cried out, struggling to free himself and shield his mother. Just then, footsteps echoed loudly from behind, startling everyone. A woman emerged swiftly from the mist, flashlight held high, clearly illuminating her determined face. It was Officer Kayla Monroe, her athletic frame moving with swift authority, gray eyes sharp and unwavering. Seeing Reed's threat, Kayla instantly drew her firearm, voice strong and clear. "Drop the knife now, Reed," Kayla ordered confidently, her posture steady, unwavering gaze locked firmly upon the fugitive. Reed hesitated, eyes flickering uncertainly between Holly and the determined officer. Seizing the brief distraction, Holly acted decisively. She slammed her elbow forcefully into Reed's stomach, momentarily breaking his grip. Reed gasped painfully, stumbling backward slightly. Kayla seized the opportunity immediately, lunging forward and pinning Reed firmly against a nearby tree, quickly disarming and restraining him with practiced efficiency. Charlie rushed into Holly's embrace, sobbing softly with relief. "Mom, are you okay?" he whispered anxiously, small hands gripping her tightly. Holly nodded reassuringly, though her hands trembled as she gently brushed Charlie's damp hair back. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe now," she murmured soothingly, glancing gratefully toward Kayla, who had securely handcuffed Reed. Nearby, Maximus's fierce determination had successfully driven away the last of the feral dogs, though he stood panting heavily, exhaustion visible in his proud stance. Liam approached carefully, offering a gentle, comforting hand to the brave dog. "Good work, Maximus," Liam praised sincerely, voice filled with admiration and gratitude. Maximus's tense body finally relaxed slightly beneath Liam's soothing touch, his gaze never leaving Holly and Charlie protectively. Kayla carefully approached Holly and Charlie, her expression compassionate yet serious. "Are either of you injured?" she inquired softly, kneeling slightly to meet Charlie's gaze directly, offering him a reassuring smile. Charlie shook his head silently, clutching Holly's hand tightly, eyes wide with lingering fear. Holly squeezed his hand comfortingly, answering gently, "We're all right now, thanks to you." Kayla nodded solemnly, gently placing a comforting hand upon Holly's shoulder briefly, before turning sharply toward Reed, who now glowered angrily, restrained and guarded by Liam. As the rescue team finally approached, guided by the earlier commotion, Kayla swiftly briefed them clearly on the situation. Reed was secured firmly by additional officers, and a medic gently examined Holly and Charlie, confirming no serious injuries. Meanwhile, a young paramedic named Ethan Daniels, slender and tall with curly brown hair and a friendly, calming presence, approached Maximus slowly, offering fresh water in a small bowl, speaking soothingly. Maximus drank gratefully, relaxing further beneath Ethan's gentle care. Deputy Liam stood near Holly, eyes thoughtfully scanning the scene carefully. "That was incredibly brave, Holly," Liam praised quietly, sincere respect clear in his tone. Holly sighed softly, finally allowing herself to relax slightly, offering Liam a tired but genuine smile. "I did what any mother would," she murmured quietly, gently holding Charlie close. As Reed was led away, Kayla approached Holly once more, voice gently encouraging. "We'll escort you safely back now. Dylan is stable at the hospital, by the way," she reassured kindly, sensing Holly's unspoken worry. Relief filled Holly's heart immediately, gratitude and hope mingling warmly within her tired spirit. As she walked slowly toward the waiting vehicles, Holly glanced affectionately at Maximus, who moved steadily beside her family, his loyal presence comforting beyond words. Despite the lingering darkness of the forest, warmth and light seemed finally to surround Holly and Charlie, each step drawing them closer to safety and peace. The shadowy threats had finally been driven away, replaced by the comforting strength of courage, loyalty, and unwavering love. The first pale beams of sunrise filtered through the thinning clouds above Greystone, painting the treetops with gentle strokes of gold and rose. The forest, once cloaked in darkness and fear, now breathed softly in the quiet aftermath. The rescue vehicles lined the muddy road at the forest's edge, their red and blue lights casting soft reflections upon the wet foliage. At the center of the activity, Officer Kayla Monroe stood calmly, efficiently coordinating the final evacuation, her steady presence guiding everyone towards safety. Holly Bennett sat quietly inside the ambulance, Charlie curled sleepily in her arms, his eyelids heavy with exhaustion and relief. Holly's gentle fingers brushed lovingly through Charlie's tangled, sandy blonde hair. Her eyes glistened softly, emotions finally catching up after the night's harrowing events. Beside her, Deputy Liam Grant gave Holly a comforting pat on her shoulder, silently acknowledging the strength she had displayed throughout the crisis. A few feet away, Ethan Daniels, the young paramedic with gentle brown eyes and unruly curly hair, carefully tended to Maximus. Ethan's voice remained consistently gentle as he cleaned a shallow wound on the dog's flank. Maximus patiently allowed the treatment, eyes occasionally flickering toward Holly and Charlie, still vigilant, though calmer now. The morning quiet was suddenly broken by the deep rumble of tires as a dark SUV pulled quickly onto the roadside. Captain Marcus Rhodes, a seasoned officer in his late 50s, stepped out swiftly. Marcus had a commanding presence, broad shoulders beneath his uniform jacket, silver-streaked dark hair neatly trimmed beneath his cap. His stern expression softened visibly upon seeing Dylan Shaw stepping carefully from another ambulance nearby. Dylan moved slowly, assisted by another paramedic named Lisa Hartley, a petite, energetic woman in her early 30s with short chestnut hair and compassionate blue eyes. Dylan's face, pale beneath a bandage, brightened noticeably upon spotting Maximus, his faithful companion, now sitting alertly beside Ethan. Dylan smiled weakly, a deep gratitude evident in his exhausted eyes. "Maximus," Dylan called softly, voice hoarse but filled with affection. Maximus's ears immediately perked, his eyes widening joyfully as he swiftly trotted toward Dylan, limping slightly but clearly eager. Dylan knelt gingerly, carefully embracing his loyal partner, gently running fingers through damp fur. "You did great, boy," Dylan murmured warmly, voice trembling slightly. Maximus pressed closely against Dylan, tail wagging gently, comforted immensely by his handler's presence. Captain Rhodes approached quietly, clearing his throat gently. Dylan rose respectfully, straightening as best he could. "Captain," Dylan greeted softly, offering a faint salute, which Marcus waved off gently. "No need for formalities today, Dylan," Marcus reassured calmly, a faint smile briefly crossing his rugged features. "I'm just glad you're safe. You gave us all quite a scare." Dylan smiled gratefully, glancing warmly toward Holly, who now approached carefully, still holding Charlie's small hand tightly. "I had plenty of help, sir. Maximus, Holly, Liam, everyone stepped up tonight." Marcus nodded appreciatively toward Holly, extending a hand in sincere gratitude. "Ms. Bennett, your bravery tonight saved lives. The town owes you and your son more than we can express." Holly accepted Marcus's hand graciously, shaking it gently. "Thank you, Captain. It was really Maximus who saved us all," she replied modestly, glancing affectionately toward the loyal German shepherd now leaning comfortably against Dylan's leg. Nearby, Officer Kayla Monroe approached, her efficient stride conveying authority tempered with kindness. Kayla's short blonde hair gleamed in the early light as she offered Holly and Dylan a sincere, respectful nod. "We have Mason Reed secured in custody now. He won't cause any more harm." Captain Rhodes nodded approvingly toward Kayla. "Excellent work, Officer Monroe. Thanks to your swift actions, everyone can rest easy tonight." Kayla smiled modestly, acknowledging the praise humbly. "Just doing my duty, sir." As the rescue teams and police slowly dispersed, Holly turned toward Dylan, concern evident in her gentle green eyes. "How are you feeling?" she asked softly, her voice compassionate and warm. Dylan shrugged slightly, wincing as he smiled. "Sore but grateful. You and Maximus really saved me." "We helped each other," Holly replied tenderly, glancing down at Charlie, who watched the conversation with sleepy yet curious eyes. Charlie smiled shyly at Dylan, stepping forward cautiously. "You're the policeman Maximus loves, right?" Charlie asked quietly, his youthful voice soft and earnest. Dylan chuckled gently, kneeling again to meet Charlie's gaze warmly. "I am indeed. And you must be Charlie, the bravest boy I've ever met." Charlie blushed, smiling happily at Dylan's praise. Dylan extended his hand kindly, and Charlie shook it enthusiastically, trust and admiration blossoming instantly between them. Watching their exchange fondly, Holly felt a deep sense of peace and gratitude. The traumatic events of the night had forged unexpected bonds of friendship and trust among everyone involved. Several days later, the town of Greystone gathered at the small community center for a special ceremony honoring Maximus's heroic actions. Mayor Cynthia Hammond, a kind, elderly woman with silver hair neatly arranged in a bun, her warm smile ever present, stepped forward confidently to address the gathered crowd. Her gentle voice resonated with genuine pride and warmth. "Today we honor an extraordinary member of our community," Mayor Hammond began, eyes twinkling kindly as she gestured affectionately toward Maximus. "A true hero whose courage and loyalty embody everything we value here in Greystone." Applause erupted warmly as Dylan, dressed neatly in uniform despite still visible bruises, led Maximus gently onto the stage. Maximus sat proudly beside Dylan, tail wagging slightly in shy acknowledgement of the audience's enthusiastic appreciation. Maximus's bravery saved Officer Dylan Shaw, Holly Bennett, and young Charlie from harm, Mayor Hammond continued warmly. "For his incredible heroism, we present Maximus with this medal, a token of Greystone's deepest gratitude." As Dylan placed the medal carefully around Maximus's sturdy neck, applause thundered again, punctuated by cheers of admiration. Holly and Charlie watched joyfully from the audience, their smiles radiant. Liam Grant and Kayla Monroe stood nearby, clapping enthusiastically, both proud and moved by the celebration of courage. After the ceremony, Dylan approached Holly quietly, smiling warmly. "I never properly thanked you," he admitted gently, blue eyes sincere and kind. "You become a dear friend, Holly. I won't forget what you did." Holly smiled affectionately, warmth filling her heart completely. "Neither will I, Dylan. Perhaps we can finally meet under less dramatic circumstances." They both laughed softly, their friendship now deepened by shared experiences. Nearby, Maximus sat contentedly, metal glinting softly beneath bright sunshine, filtering warmly through nearby trees. As everyone dispersed slowly, Holly stood quietly beneath dappled sunlight, holding Charlie's small hand tightly. She closed her eyes briefly, savoring newfound peace, surrounded by friends who had become family through trials overcome together. In the gentle morning light that now enveloped the forest, hope shone brightly, promising healing and renewal for everyone touched by darkness. Through courage, friendship, and loyalty, each heart had found its way home, guided by the unbreakable bond of a heroic dog named Maximus. In the heartwarming story of Dylan, Holly, Charlie, and a brave German shepherd, Maximus, we've learned an important lesson about courage, loyalty, and the strength of friendship. Even in the darkest times, holding on to faith and trusting those around us can guide us safely home. Each of us faces moments of fear or uncertainty in our daily lives. But let this story remind us that we are never truly alone. There's always someone watching over us. If this story touched your heart, please share it with friends and family. Leave a comment below. Type them in to celebrate the spirit of bravery and hope shown by Maximus and everyone involved. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more uplifting and inspiring stories like this. May God bless you and keep you safe always. Amen.